Hello and welcome to the Disruptive Innovation Festival. I'm Miranda Schnittger from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and today we're talking about cities. To set the scene on why we're talking about cities and the circular economy and what it can mean for them, we're going to play a short video to get us started.
By 2050, 2/3 of us will live in cities. Already, cities are where we consume 75% of our natural resources, produce over 50% of global waste, and emit up to 80% of global greenhouse gases. These are consequences of our linear take-make-waste model. But cities are also places which concentrate on innovation, education, finance, culture, and where people exchange ideas. Pragmatic and acting quickly, they play a leading role in politics and the economy. They can lead the way to develop a circular economy. The circular economy can help cities to thrive and become more livable and resilient, helping to meet urban priorities around housing, transport, and economic development. The circular economy can also help cities meet the Sustainable Development Goals and their climate targets. It starts with 3 principles. Design out waste and pollution. Avoid creating waste in the first place, for example with products and parts created within cities when needed, using materials that can be reused, recycled or composted. Making use of untapped space in buildings, transport, and using renewable energy to power the city, making them healthier and cleaner. Keep products in use, so products are no longer used just once. They're reused, repaired and refurbished. And people gain access to the things they need, be it space, products or transport, in new ways. For example, through sharing rather than owning, and connecting people to their neighbours and communities. And cities are planned so that materials flow. Regenerate natural systems, so that valuable nutrients return to the soil and air and water quality improves in the city and in the countryside beyond. Ready to get started? The Ellen MacArthur Foundation's suite of resources help you take the lead and create a city fit for today. The time to act is now.
Great, so that's given us a bit of context about what the circular economy might mean in cities. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Wayne, Chief Executive of the London Waste and Recycling Board, Caro, who's Deputy Secretary of Economic Development and Labour for the City of Sao Paulo, and Filippo, who's Policy Advisor to the Vice Mayor of Milan. Welcome. And also welcome to all of you online. If you have any questions and thoughts during the sessions, please do put them in the comment box on the session page, or tweet us with #ThinkDiff. Great. So Wayne, Caro, Filippo, lots of cities around the world are starting to work with circular economy to deliver new systems within their cities. And in each of your cities, it's a different context. We're talking about different geographies. Can you give us a bit of context as to why circular economy matters in your city and where you are with it? Filippo, do you want to kick us off?
Milan is developing several action towards circular economy transition. For example, we are working on this in the urban planning field, in the food policy, in the environment, and public transportation.
So that's quite a wide range of different areas.
Yeah. And Milan ranks as the first city for circular economy out of the 10 most populated cities in Italy, according to a study of the Bicocca University, which is a good starting point, but of course we should improve.
I love the fact, though, that in Italy there's this ranking of like almost like setting up a competition to achieve this goal.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're gonna expand that out to other cities? Maybe we could have a European League table.
Yeah, could be. Yes, could be.
We'll have to talk after.
Yeah.
Yes. I can sense there's already a bit of competition as to who will get there first.
To improve the competition. So this is a good starting point, but of course we should improve. circular, of course, as city, our tool to promote this transition are our urban policies. But they should be urban policies that involve all the relevant stakeholders of the city. So from private citizens, normal citizens, to push their behavioral changes, to the private sector, and also to involve the third sector, so grant makers, NGOs, and foundation. So the tool are policies, and our drivers in Milan are, for example, our municipal agencies that are controlled by the municipality. So, for example, school canteens, meal provider, public transportation, and another example that we'll do later. To be concrete and assess our policy, we have set some targets, some goals that in some cases are goals coming from international frameworks. Just 2 or 3 examples. The SDGs 12.3, we would like to achieve, to give our contribution to achieve these goals. So 50% reduction of food waste by 2030, or 70% reduction of soil consumption that is set out in our Urban Planning Act, for example, or reach the 70% of recycling rate. Or the last one that I can say is to reduce up to 50% of the waste production. This is the zero declaration of C40.
Great, thanks for kicking us off. I think from that you can take the amount of coordination with all the different stakeholders in the city being really important, but also a city isn't just one organisation on its own. You mentioned the other agencies that are attached to the city administration and involving them in it as well. And I love the link, you're wearing the badge of the SDGs. Certainly circular economy has been linked to SDG 12, sustainable consumption and production. And I think actually there's more potential than just that one for the circular economy to play a part. Caro, you're on the other side of the world in Brazil.
Yes, in a huge city.
In a very large city, exactly.
Yes.
How does circular economy look in Sao Paulo?
Yes, as Filippo was saying, we work with food a lot. We have a program, a food waste control and loss reduction program, and we work with organic food at public schools too, and composting too. We have nowadays 5 public composting areas in our city, and we are going to have 17 till the end of 2020.
Right.
Yes, this is a great action, direct action for the food security and for circular economy.
And is it the City Hall that's pushing that? It's your initiative?
Yes, it's public. Yes,
Yeah.
It is. It is from our mayor, Bruno Covas. It's new in our country and it's new in our city.
Great.
And we are working hard to work with organic and local production. 30% of our city, we have 1,500 square kilometers of territory, and 30% of our city is a rural area. So we work with family farmers by qualifying them, by empowering to get better and to increase their business, and to work with food quality, with food security, and with social programs too.
Okay, so you're really seeing it as both an education piece, but also almost business skills opportunity, it sounds like there, in terms of training and skills.
Exactly. We say that we must do in our secretariat about economic development and labor. We work with labor, with work, and we work with any possibility to increase, to generate income.
Okay.
So that's why we use qualification, and especially in this theme, in this contest about food, with family farmers.
That's great.
And
is it
with families in high vulnerability situation.
Okay. And is it the economic development and labour department within Sao Paulo that's sort of coordinating and driving circular economy across the city departments? Are you the hub?
Yes. Our secretary does this. Okay. We have coordinators, one who works only with economic development. We studies the the future of work, the labor of the future. We study our vocations, our city vocations, and our territories vocations to potentialize it.
I love that because it's the circular economy. I mean, we are talking about the economy and shifting the system. So making sure that it's part of economic development and labour considerations, what impact it will have and where the jobs are, I think is so important.
Certainly.
Wayne, you're at the London Waste and Recycling Board, which sounds like coming at it from another angle, but tell us a bit about how it's working in London.
Well, I mean, that's interesting because, I was listening to you guys, and our focus originally was waste. So, we have the C40 kind of aspirations around zero waste to landfill. The Mayor of London has set targets around recycling for our municipalities. And we are a partnership of London's municipalities and the Mayor of London. And we came at this from the perspective of what waste infrastructure do we need for London going forward to 2050. That was the time horizon that we were looking at. And this was sort of around 2015, actually. And we started to think, we're not going to do a traditional predict and provide waste management scenario. We'd heard about this thing called the circular economy, and we felt that we needed to explore that, and we needed to incorporate that within the London strategic sort of architecture, if you like. And the more we found out about it, the more we realised it wasn't to do with traditional waste management per se.
That it was or it wasn't?
It wasn't. We had these inner loops. What it's to do with is about consumption. It's about reducing consumption of stuff, of virgin stuff. And the things you had on the video, making things last longer, sharing. So our programme is really designed around, yes, recycling. Absolutely, it's about recycling. Certainly now, that's our major focus with municipalities. But it's also about encouraging and incentivising startups and businesses who are utilising some of these interesting circular business models like sharing, making things last, servitisation, all those kinds of really interesting stuff, especially around plastics and the built environment and food. We're working with you guys now in New York as a flagship city for food. We've just been announced by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Thank you very much. So we're excited about that. But yes, our big focus for us is supporting those startups, because we see them kind of going out into the economy and sprinkling their magic circular economy dust on the economy. And, I find this fascinating. Just by doing what they do, doing the right thing, they're providing services that people choose to buy, and it kind of saves the planet. And I think that's amazing. We're not asking people to take a reduction in their standard of living. Right. People are choosing to share. They're choosing to buy stuff that lasts longer. They're choosing to free themselves from the burden, often of ownership.
Okay. Because the quality of the things that are being offered under circular economy are high enough.
We've moved on.
Yeah. Okay.
We've moved on. We've moved to a point where I don't want to have the circular economy drill. I want to go to the library of things and borrow a drill when I need it. I don't want to have to store it all the time.
Yes.
We've moved on, and I think that's really important. So the businesses that we support are being successful because citizens are, I think, in many ways ahead of us as policymakers. We're rushing to catch up.
Right, I love that. So engagement of the citizen is actually a really important part of this for you.
It will become increasingly important now. We want to scale this up, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. But the point is that we've not had to engage with them in the sense that you should do this.
No, it's to exchange best practices.
Yeah.
We are talking about it yesterday and today too. We need to put everybody together, the public sector, the private sector, the NGOs, and everybody has to put our hands together to make it better and to really make the difference.
Yeah. So
we don't need to reinvent. We need to take the best practices from each other and put it all together, and that's the way it will work.
That is
in my vision.
Great segue, because one of the things that I'm often asked about is it's nice to hear about a city's doing something, but strategy is all well and good, but it doesn't necessarily resonate because it's a paper document. So I'd love to hear from each of you about specific practical examples that you're doing. And you mentioned food already. Yes. I think you're doing some work around plastics as well.
Yes. We've signed the No Plastics Economy Global Commitment recently in March of this year. And our mayor, Bruno Covas, will sanction a municipal law that prohibits the distribution of plastic straw in bars, restaurants, hotels, and we will offer qualification to collectors, to people who collect from the streets there in our city.
So that links back to your point earlier about skills and qualifications.
Yes, and qualification always, all the time, we think about qualification. It's really, we need to do it in our city. We have a big number of unemployees, and we do qualification to help people in high vulnerability. And that qualification is in order to 45 cooperatives too. We are working with cooperativism too.
So again, that education and skills piece is coming out, and that's around plastics. You've got it on food. You're developing it around plastics. I think the plastic straw is such an interesting, it's such a visible thing. It's happening in London as well. My hope is also that we continue to go a lot further than that. It's a sort of great communications piece, but then there's a larger bit with businesses as well around how the plastic is used in industry. Filippo, food is a big thing in Milan, and you're well known for the pact work that you've done on it. Can you tell us a bit about how that's playing out in Milan? What is the policy?
Well, Milan consider, as you said, food as an entry point towards a transition to the circular economy. I am particularly happy to be here with the other two signatory cities of the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact. So we are, the three cities are convinced that and share this challenge to create sustainable urban food systems. In 2015, the municipality established an holistic approach towards all the food system and set 5 priorities, one of them being fighting against food waste and manage bio-waste sustainably. So how we reach the goal 12.3, 50% of the SDGs of food waste reduction. I can give some tangible examples on three drivers that are education, fiscal leverage, and public-private partnerships. So about education, we work with our municipal company, so our driver, the thing that I said before, that provides 85,000 meals per day. So it's a great number, and it's important to understand how, for example, a change in the public procurement of this company can have an impact. So, for example, in 2016, we avoided plastic cutleries, in the school canteens, and we introduced compostable materials. So
you're changing the material flow, changing the waste cycle, and educating children in the process.
Yes, no more plastic.
And actually the procurement people as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No more plastic, and this implies more than 700 tons of plastic per year cut.
Great, and that's just the start. But it's interesting how big a difference one of these little initiatives can make. So
exactly. Yeah. And another initiative in education is a project thanks to which we change the time in which we provide fruit to students, not at the end of the meal, but in the middle of the morning during break time. And this has shown two positive things. The first one is that we are educating young people to eat fruit and not unhealthy snacks. And the second one, it was a little bit unpredictable, we reduce the amount of fruit that students waste after the meal.
Okay.
by
right.
anticipating it
Yeah.
in the morning.
Yeah.
Very clever.
Very clever, because I mean, fruit's got a lot of sugar content in it as well, so it's kind of an energy pickup, and at that point, there's less wrappers as well.
Yeah. And about the fiscal leverage, we introduced last year a waste tax reduction that is a tax of the municipality for companies up to 20% for companies that donate food losses. So this is, of course, it's an initiative to incentivize food losses. So supermarkets, shops, and canteens that donate food, they will have this, let's say, this reduction as a consequence of the amount of food they donate per year.
Okay.
And last thing, as an example of the private-public partnership that we are implementing, is the creation of food waste, local food waste hub, together with university and a company union. So we use an empty municipal space that now is in the center of a logistic model that has been studied by a university. So we gather all the food losses from supermarket canteens in the neighborhood, and these flows are collected in this hub, and in the same day are distributed to NGOs.
That's
so
really
the third
interesting.
sector.
Because that's both tackling food, but I love that you're using an underused municipal space at the same time. So it's linking into the built environment as well.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. Again, cities have such a big pressure on them at the moment to build new, but at the same time there is so, like some of our researchers found, sort of 40% of space is not being used. So tapping into that is really exciting.
We potentialize the use of the public equipments.
Exactly.
We are doing this in our city too, and we have public kitchens where we administrate qualification too.
Okay.
Yes, to food security, for food safety, and to consume fruit, vegetable, and leaves in the integrated in a integrate form.
Right.
All of the parts of the food.
Excellent.
We are doing this.
So between you, we've heard about public procurement, a fiscal measure, which is around taxation, a ban, you mentioned, around plastics. Wayne, you're doing some interesting stuff around funding and working with SMEs, and tell us a bit about that.
I will do, yeah, absolutely. It's interesting though, before I start, because London are doing similar things. There's themes emerging across, all of the cities. There is the mayor's banned, plastics, single-use plastics within his within City Hall. We've introduced circular economy principles into procurement practices. The mayor's an SDG 12.3 champion. There's a focus on local food growing in London. So there's lots of similarities. We've got a route map which we published in 2017, a circular economy route map for London, which identified 5 focus areas, and food and textiles, and plastics and waste electronic equipment and the built environment. They're all there, and lots of cities have similar-ish focus areas. Maybe there's some differences occasionally, but they're the kind of general things that people focus on. So we're doing some stuff on fashion, working with big brands, and we have a really fantastic award-winning fashion campaign called Love Not Landfill, aimed at young people from 18 to 24. We're doing lots of really good stuff with social media. So I'll put that to one side because...
It's great, there's so many examples to talk about.
But I mean, we've all got some really good examples. The idea of sharing those examples is really pertinent, where cities should get together and talk about this, because we've got so much to learn from each other. This is a really great, just meting you guys. I've met you first yesterday, which is fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. De nada. There you go. So
He's speaking a little bit of
languages before.
Yes.
I'm helping you out with your Portuguese. That's
Wayne
right.
is a Portuguese speaker.
Obrigado.
Italian's next.
I've gone red. So yes, we've got a focus on helping startups and SMEs.
Right. Yeah.
In the circular economy space, from startup to maturity. So we have a program that we deliberately designed to help help companies navigate that journey. So we've just recently, in the last couple of weeks, the Mayor of London and our chair, Liz Goodwin, launched a venture capital fund. Well, actually, it was a bigger fund, but there's a part of that is a £45 million venture capital fund, of which at least £14 million will be targeted to support early stage circular economy startups in London.
Fantastic.
At least 14 million. We hope it'll be more, actually.
And those early startups, they can be on any area of circular economy, or do they have to work in one specific?
No, they're mostly going to be probably tech based, because the fund manager that we've chosen, MMC, focuses on data and digital, the drive towards digital. So they'll probably be tech based, but they can be across any particular area, so long as they're demonstrating a circular economy business model, which we'll, you know, the rub is in what that means. We've got some pretty good ideas about that. Then we have an accelerator, a circular economy accelerator at our circular offices in Wilson Street.
I know, I came there for the first time 2 days
which
ago.
we're very pleased and proud of. And we have some 6 startups in the built environment, and the first investment that the venture capital fund has made from a circular economy perspective is one of those startups. So it just goes to show it's already working. We also have an investment in Jamie Butterworth's Circularity Capital enterprise, fund, and he's raised, or they've raised, something like £50 million from mostly private sector sources, which just goes to show the interest of the investor community in this space. And we were one of the first investors in that fund, so we're really pleased about that. And then underneath all of that, we have a business support team who are, again, they're an in-house team based at our head office, who support circular economy businesses with business advice. So they're not telling them how to save waste or reduce their energy footprint. Not that that's a bad thing, but they're giving them business advice to help scale them up. So, we've got
it's
some...
not just skills out in the economy and in the city, it's also skills in the public administration and like the learning that happens internally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
Yeah. And we'd like to kind of disseminate that model and disseminate to other cities and sell that to the private sector as well. Those kind of skills, we've got some skills that we can sell.
Yeah. And between all three of you, you've all touched on so many different stakeholders in your examples that are involved, like the education side, the multiple public officials in all those examples, the finance side there with the examples of the funds that are involved, tech, the whole technical revolution that I think can really be pulled into achieving this transformation.
But in mapping that out, we've probably all, to a certain extent, either done this formally or we know it informally. We'll have within our cities the sectors that are big in our cities. So, in London, it's finance, it's government, it's education, it's media, and then we'll have our focus areas. So ideally, we'd have a programme operating, at that nexus between, say, the media and fashion, or finance and tech, or finance and food, or whatever it may be. You could imagine a programme in each of those areas if you thought of that as a matrix. So that's how we've set ourselves up.
Okay, great. And at the moment, I think our conversation is sounding probably to the outsider as extremely, everything is possible, which I think is a great mindset, and that there's lots and lots of activity happening. But this is also a discovery journey, and no one knows exactly how it will play out, so there must be lots of learning along the way. What are some of the challenges and opportunities that you see in continuing to drive the transition? Carolina.
Okay. I think this exchange of practices is the great thing to do now.
Right.
And in our city, in our country, actually, unfortunately, we have a culture of waste. Right. So we need to change our mindset. Mm-hmm. That's why qualification and sensibilization to sensitize the whole community is too important for us. That's why this opportunity as São Paulo city, as a flagship city from Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and this opportunity to know other cities and to learn with all of you guys, it's really rich. It's too important to our community and to our city.
It's interesting because we had a question online about was there a risk that cities would just compete and would they forget to collaborate? But it sounds like you're going to say no, they will collaborate.
No, they certainly will. I'm sure of. I am so sure that's what we've been doing since Wednesday when we met the first time, and another question which is really hard in our city is about logistic. It's about of the territory. It's too big. It's too huge, and we need to focus and to get more collaboration about logistics.
Okay.
I think it's a strong point that we need to.
And when you're saying logistics,
to
are you
improve.
thinking the same for people and for materials, or are you focusing on both?
Both. To sensitize and to make things work.
Okay.
Our campaign for food against food waste and for food security, we have a food bank in the middle of the city,
right.
and we need to distribute
it.
from 310 now social organizations fruit, vegetables and leaves that are proper to consume, and they are going to be composting. So we put all this food together, and we have to separate, clean, and to send to these entities. So it's difficult.
Logistics is going to
yes,
play
yes,
a big part.
It is.
What does it look like in Milan, the opportunities and challenges to moving forward on circular economy?
Well, of course, we are collaborating. I mean, this is, for example, the aim of the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact. It's a platform for mayors and officers to share and learn good practices on the sustainability of the food system. So we should, but we are collaborating. Opportunities for Milan that I see, I think it's the as we all said, is the involvement of citizens, but in particular, I think the involvement of the youngest generations. We are in a particular moment now in which young people, students are becoming aware of and are eager to learn about climate change, reduction of the consumption and everything connected to the reuse of the materials. So we should make them, of course, a part of the solution and helping them to shape our system from linear to circular. One of the key projects on education in Milan is called Ambiente a Scuola, and the aim is to push behavioral changes in the young people about reuse, recycle, restore, and reduce. Okay. So this is an opportunity, a big opportunity. But I think around the world, I mean, not just in Milan. And challenges we would like to understand and to foster our to focus our attention to financial tools that can help cities to become more circular.
Okay.
But as we are member of the program CE 100 of the foundation, I'm sure that we can meet this challenge together, and also collaborating with London with the project that you mentioned before.
Yeah. And why is it that finance has risen to your mind as one of the key barriers?
Because it's, fund project is the first step to start those projects. So, for example, also could be in a circular way of see also funding. Maybe something that some fund that can come from the saving of the first project started on circularity.
Okay. And
because
that's
they
a really
produce
powerful
savings,
message to tell, that because you're trying to achieve behavior change or production change or consumption change, and that you're telling a story of systems, so if that money can then flow back into that new system that you're trying to create is a strong story. Wayne, what are the challenges and opportunities from London's perspective?
Well, I think we now have to, when we started down this road, we didn't know what the circular economy meant, and we deliberately kind of just threw everything at it, and that's why we have such a plethora of programs. But I think it's focused, because what I want to do with our next business plan is really focus on consumption, right? So. I don't want to be controversial, but I'm not entirely sure that there is such a thing as sustainable consumption in a way. Not certain, we need to move away from thinking of citizens as consumers to citizens as maybe users of services, and
even producers.
Producers, makers, all of those kind of things, reusers. That's what maybe that's the new model of consumption. It's not like the old model of consumption, and that means we need to have a noticeable effect, a measurable effect on the amount of waste that the city produces in a downward movement in that over the next 5 years, which means we need to scale up what we're doing. Yeah. We need to engage citizens and give them the tools that we're developing now, so that they can share their surplus food with their neighbours, or with restaurants, or take the surplus food from restaurants at the end of the day, or whatever it is, or share clothes, or whatever it is, to make that measurable impact. And ultimately, that means we need to drive down consumption-based greenhouse gas emissions, because that's what it's all about, really. Yeah. And it's the kind of tale that is often not told in the big kind of climate change story.
Yeah, we talk about the emissions from the production side, but less from the consumption side.
So we've got extraction, production, transport, use, emissions that are kind of not part of the story of a nation, a region, or a city. And so, but people intuitively believe that if they reuse something, or they use a service rather than a material thing, that they are saving carbon emissions, and they are. Yeah. That's right, and we need to kind of tell them, yes, that's the right thing to do. You're making a difference. So I want to bear down on per capita greenhouse gas emissions, consumption based, and I want to see waste come down in London. So that's a big challenge. Yeah. I'm not setting that for myself quite yet, but that's we've got to scale this up. We've got to do stuff, and I'm looking at things like companies that have been through our program in a small way, like Uhu, who make the little seaweed balls.
What's in the balls?
Well, it was water, but in the London Marathon this year, they distributed 36,000 of these seaweed balls filled with sports drink. Okay. So there's no single-use plastic on the floor. Amazing. That's the kind of thing. It's gone from an idea in a lab to a real application that's made a real difference. And that's what we need to do.
Because as a user, that's partly you're conscious that you're not using the bottle, but I've done one of these races, and actually, just in terms of running, it's not very much fun running over bottles. Exactly. Well. So it's sort of 2 in 1, which is great. We are beginning to come to the end of our session, but we have had another question online. This often is sort of, I think a lot of national governments are thinking about it, but I'm interested in your thoughts. So it's about, what do we do about the waste that is now beginning to be turned away by some of the countries who used to receive it? So China recently said that they weren't going to accept any more. Malaysia, I think, is Indonesia, has also turned down the recycled imports that they were previously accepting. What impact is that having at the city level? I know they're thinking about it nationally, but do you feel any impact from that?
Well, I'll tell you one thing, is that there's a lot of interest in developing in city and in country reprocessing capacity, which is exactly what needs to happen. And I had a meeting today.
Oh, did you?
Just on that, people saying, we're interested in deposit return schemes that your government is thinking of implementing, and taxation on plastics that your government is thinking of implementing. Can you help us develop reprocessing facilities? And yes, of course.
Fantastic.
Yes, of course.
I think this is a good news, because it is easier to give the waste to other countries, and not to have a landfill or a plant in your territory. So this is a good news, because cities and countries should now start and think and implement and create sustainable plans, close landfills. So, for example, the thing that we were saying before about reducing waste, because waste it produces CO2 and other greenhouse gases emission. So we should go in the direction of use plants that follow circular economic principle. So, for example, we were explaining how to reduce food waste. Okay. There is a part of bio-waste that I mean, it's unavoidable. So, and we should think how to make this bio-waste circular. So, for example, the plant that we chose, it's a private plant, but we chose that plant because in Milan, because from that bio-waste, the plant produces, of course, compost, but biofuel, electricity, and also CO2. For industrial purposes. So, for example, for the food industry. So, what is bio-waste becomes a new food product. Let's think sparkling water, for example. Just for an example.
Great. Great. Well, thank you for sharing all the examples and telling us about how you're bringing it to life in your cities. At the Foundation, cities are for us a really important part to focus a lot of our work around. It's been mentioned several times. We've got a new initiative around food, which is centred on cities, and all of these cities are involved in that. And we've also done a piece of work recently looking at the circular economy opportunities in buildings, mobilities, and products, and examples of what some cities are doing in terms of how they bring it to life. So if you're interested in any of those things, do find out more on our website, and we're going to be played out by a short film about that. And in the meantime, I just want to say thank you for being in London with us today.
A pleasure.
Thank you.
Check out the resources from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Circular Economy in Cities is a suite of online resources which provide a reference point for urban policymakers. It will help you understand what the implementation of circular economy principles in cities can look like, with fact sheets on the opportunities and benefits that a circular economy can bring to cities, guidance on which levers can be used to accelerate this transition, case studies from cities that have already been putting these ideas into practice, and links to other networks and resources to learn what other organisations are doing on the topic of circular economy in cities. If you're ready to take things further, you can join networks of cities, businesses and institutions all collaborating on the circular economy. Search for a circular economy in cities or visit ellenmacarthurfoundation.org.
We need to start making more conscious material choices.
I set up an initiative called Make Fashion Circular.
It's a tsunami of change.